When the tornado siren screamed across North Ashford's industrial district, the entire factory bowed to commands blaring from the PA system. A calm, decisive female voice guided each evacuation step. Dale Renner, my stepfather, looked up, irritated by this pointless drill. He didn't know it was my voice. I'd once knelt on tile, shoulder dislocated for refusing to sign a loan for the family. I left home with a torn shirt but returned with files, court orders, and a drill where every command was a legal leverage point. He thought I was weak because I stayed silent, but silence is just the breath you take before landing the final blow. My name is Lauren Hale, and I learned that night how quickly family can become enemy. The 12-hour shift at VoxSafe had left copper taste in my mouth, too much coffee. Not enough water. My shoulders ached from hunching over compliance reports, verifying emergency alert protocols for 3 counties. The rental house sat dark except for the kitchen window, yellow light spilling onto dead grass. I could hear them before I opened the door. Dale's laugh, thick with Budweiser. Mom's nervous giggle. "There she is," Dale announced as I stepped inside. Papers spread across the kitchen table like accusations. "Your mother and I need to discuss finances." I dropped my bag by the door. The smell hit me: cigarettes, old grease, something sour beneath. "It's past midnight, Dale." "Sit." Not a request. His contractor hands, permanently stained with industrial adhesive, pushed a document toward me. "Refinancing paperwork. Need your signature." I scanned the header. Home equity loan. My name listed as co-borrower. "I don't own this house." "You live here, don't you?" His jaw worked sideways. A tell I'd learned meant trouble. Family helps family. By committing fraud. The words came out sharper than intended. Mom shifted in her chair, studying her chipped nail polish, always studying something else when Dale got like this. Fraud. Dale stood, chair scraping linoleum, 6'3" of barely contained rage. "I put a roof over your head. I pay rent, $400 a month, remember?" The bottle flew before I could dodge. Brown glass exploded against the wall behind me, foam and shards raining down. I flinched but held my ground. "Sign the fucking papers, Lauren." "No." The second document appeared: auto loan, $40,000 for a truck. My credit, his benefit. "This one too." I said no. His hand moved faster than the bottle had. Fingers wrapped around my upper arm, yanking me forward. My shoulder popped sudden. White-hot wrong. The sound seemed to echo in the small kitchen. I bit down on the scream. "Dale, stop," Mom whispered. Not shouted, whispered. He dragged me toward the table, my feet scrambling for purchase. "You ungrateful." His free hand grabbed the pen, tried to force it into my fingers. I let it drop, watched it roll under the refrigerator. "Get out." He released me with a shove. I stumbled, caught myself on the counter, shoulder screaming. "Get your shit and get out of my house." "Dale, she's hurt," Mom started. "She's fine. Aren't you? Lauren, big career woman, compliance expert." He spat the words like curses. "Too good for family." I cradled my arm, back toward my room. 10 minutes to pack. I'd learned to be efficient during their previous fights. Laptop, work clothes, documents folder, medications, my old backpack, the one from college, still held together with duct tape. Dale waited on the porch, smoking. He grabbed the bag from my good arm, rifled through it. "Making sure you're not stealing." "From what, your empty beer fund?" The backpack hit me in the chest. I caught it awkwardly, shoulder protesting. Mom stood in the doorway, backlit, face unreadable. "Lydia, tell her," Dale said. Mom's voice came out mechanical. "You're not welcome here if you won't help the family." The porch light clicked off before I reached the sidewalk. I walked 3 blocks before allowing myself to assess the damage. Shoulder definitely dislocated. I'd done it once before in college volleyball. Each step jarred the joint, sent lightning up my neck. My phone showed 1:47 a.m. Evan would be awake. He worked nights at the hospital. The word family echoed with each footfall. Dale had wielded it like a weapon. Mom had hidden behind it like a shield. But family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't choose silence over safety. By the time I reached the bus stop, I'd made my decision. The word had shifted meaning in the space of a beer bottle's flight. Family to adversary. And adversaries required different rules of engagement. The bus route to Evan's apartment took 40 minutes at night, winding through empty downtown streets. Each pothole sent fresh pain through my shoulder. I pressed my forehead against the cool window, watched streetlights blur past like a string of broken promises. Evan lived in a converted warehouse near the medical district, one of those gentrified spaces with exposed brick and industrial fixtures that cost twice what they should. His motorcycle sat under a tarp in the resident lot. I buzzed his unit at 2:36 a.m. "Lauren." His voice through the intercom sounded alert. Unsurprised. We'd grown up learning to expect middle-of-the-night crises. "Come up." The elevator was out again. 4 flights of stairs felt like Everest with a dislocated shoulder. Evan met me at his door in scrubs, just home from his shift at Mercy General. He took one look at my cradled arm and steered me to his kitchen. "Anterior dislocation," he said, already gathering supplies from a medical kit he kept under the sink. "How, Dale?" His hands stilled on the gauze roll. Evan had Mom's eyes hazel with gold flecks, but none of her talent for looking away. "What else?" "Beer bottle, missed. The shoulder happened when I wouldn't sign some papers." He helped me onto a bar stool. Movements precise and clinical. "Papers for what?" "Fraudulent loan applications. My name, his benefit." "Jesus!" He positioned himself behind me. "This is gonna hurt. On 3? He didn't count. The reduction happened in one smooth motion, a grinding pop as the joint slid home. I gasped, then breathed deep as the sharp edge of pain dulled to an ache. "Ice," he said, already pulling a bag of frozen peas from the freezer. 20 minutes. We need to report this." "Evan." "No." He wrapped the makeshift ice pack in a dish towel. "Help me position it. I've watched this pattern for 20 years. Mom picks these men, enables them, chooses them over us every time. It's not getting better." I thought of Mom's whisper in the kitchen, her mechanical dismissal on the porch. "She's complicit. Always has been." Evan pulled out his phone, started documenting. The harsh kitchen light caught every detail swelling already visible. The beginning of bruises where Dale's fingers had gripped. "Tell me everything, chronologically." I talked while he photographed, recorded, the loan documents, the threats, the escalation. Mom's silence. By the time I finished, Evan had compiled a file that would make any prosecutor pay attention. "There's something else," he said, pulling up a kitchen chair to face me. "Last month, I got a letter from First National. Something about a loan application being incomplete, except I never applied for any loan." My stomach dropped. "Your credit." I pulled a report. Someone tried to open a home equity line using my information. Application was rejected, insufficient income, but the attempt came from Mom's address. We sat with that revelation. 2 siblings connected by shared suspicion. Outside, an ambulance wailed past, Doppler effect bending the siren's pitch. "She's done this before," I said. "Hasn't she, with your dad? With Marcus?" Marcus, the middle brother we barely mentioned anymore, who'd cut contact after Mom chose her 3rd husband over testifying about stolen credit cards. Evan nodded. "Pattern behavior. She finds these men, gives them access to everything, our information, our futures, then acts shocked when it goes bad." Dale mentioned having a daughter in finance. At the construction site, someone overheard him bragging about it. "That's identity theft. Federal crime." Evan stood, paced to the window. "We can't let this slide. Lauren, not again." "I know." The ice pack was starting to numb more than my shoulder. "I'll file a report. First thing tomorrow." "Tonight, Mercy has a police substation. We go now, while the evidence is fresh." He grabbed his jacket, tossed me one of his hoodies. "And Lauren, we're pulling full credit reports. Both of us. Tonight?" I thought about arguing, about waiting until morning when I could think clearly. But Evan's expression determined, protective, done with the patterns decided me. Dale thinks I'm weak, I said, sliding carefully into the hoodie. Because I stayed quiet before. You're not weak. You're strategic. There's a difference. Evan helped me adjust the sling he'd fashioned from a scarf. And strategic people document everything. We left his apartment at 3:47 a.m., two siblings finally ready to break the cycle. The city spread below us, lights like scattered evidence. Somewhere across town, Dale was probably passed out on the couch, confident in his victory, Mom beside him, choosing ignorance over integrity. They had no idea what kind of storm was building. The quiet kind, the documented kind, the kind that arrives with warrants instead of warnings. Marcus Lowell's office at First National Bank hadn't changed in the 3 years since I'd opened my account. Same motivational posters, same artificial fern, same way he drummed his fingers when uncomfortable. Today, his drumming had a different rhythm, urgent, concerned. "Ms. Hale, I'm glad you came in." He swiveled his monitor toward me. "We've had some unusual activity on your records." The screen showed a loan application I'd never seen. Home equity refinance. $75,000 submitted 6 weeks ago. Co-applicant, Lauren Hale. Primary applicant, Dale Renner. My signature at the bottom, blue ink in a scanned PDF. I didn't sign this. My voice came out steady despite the acid climbing my throat. "I suspected as much." Marcus clicked through screens. "The signature look here." He pulled up my original account documents. "Your authentic signature has a distinctive loop on the L. This one." He toggled back to the loan application. "Similar, but the angle's wrong. The pressure points don't match." "You rejected it." "Incomplete documentation. Mr. Renner couldn't provide proof of your income." Marcus's fingers drummed faster. "But Ms. Hale, this is identity theft, attempted fraud. We need to—" "I've already filed a police report." I showed him the case number Detective Klein had assigned. "What else do you have?" More screens, more evidence. A car loan application from 4 months ago. $45,000 for a Ford F-250. Same blue ink signature, same slightly off angle. This one also rejected, but sent to my mother's address for additional documentation required. "They knew," I said. "Mom knew 4 months ago someone was using my information." Marcus pulled up the correspondence log. 3 letters sent to Lydia Renner's address. No response, no follow-up, just silence. "I'll need copies of everything," I said. "Already printing." He glanced at my slinged arm. Chose not to comment. "Ms. Hale, there's a pattern here. We've seen similar attempts on other accounts connected to this address. Your brother Evan." "We know. He's filing his own report." "And before him?" Marcus hesitated. "A Marcus Hale, about 5 years ago." "My middle brother, the one who'd vanished from family gatherings after Mom's third husband maxed out credit cards in his name. Can you pull those records?" "Different system, but yes. Give me 48 hours." The printer behind him churned out pages. "Ms. Hale, in my experience, these cases often involve someone with intimate access to personal information. Social security numbers, birth dates, mother's maiden name." "Family," the word tasted bitter. "Unfortunately, yes." I left the bank with a manila folder thick as a legal brief. Downtown traffic had picked up lunch hour approaching. My shoulder throbbed with each step toward the county courthouse. 3 blocks to file additional documentation with the civil division. The records room smelled like old paper and industrial cleaner. A clerk named Deborah, reading glasses on a chain, helped me navigate the system. "Loan applications. You said," she typed with 2 fingers, squinting at her screen. "Let's see what we have." The search returned 7 results. 7 attempts in 18 months, all with Dale Renner as primary applicant, all requiring a cosigner. 3 with my name, 2 with Evans, 2 with names I didn't recognize, probably subcontractors Dale had burned. "Can I get copies?" "Public record, honey, 25 cents per page." I paid an exact change. Watched the ancient copier reproduce evidence of systematic fraud. Each application showed the same pattern, Dale's barely legible scrawl. A co-signer's signature in blue ink. Document sent to Mom's address. The third application stopped me cold. The co-signer line, Lauren Hale, Financial Compliance Officer. He'd used my job title, traded on my credibility, at construction sites, at banks, with lenders my professional reputation as currency for his cons. Deborah noticed my stillness. You okay, honey? Fine, just processing. Take your time. Seen too many of these cases. Family members thinking they're entitled to each other's credit. She patted my good shoulder. Grandmother gentle. Good for you for documenting. Most people just let it slide. I thought of Mom at the kitchen table, studying her nails while Dale threw bottles. Of Evan working night shifts to pay off debts he didn't create. Of Marcus, our Marcus, starting fresh in another state because home meant hemorrhaging money to Mom's choices. Not this time, I said. Deborah smiled. That's the spirit. You want the business registry search too. Sometimes these types incorporate. Try to hide assets. Yes, everything. Another search. Another revelation. Piedmont Modular and Supply LLC. Registered 18 months ago. Principal Dale Renner. Agent of service Lydia Renner. A construction supply company with no physical address beyond a P.O. box. Incorporated the same week those loan applications started. By the time I left the courthouse, my folder had doubled in size. Evidence layered like sediment. Each page another stratum of deception. Mom wasn't just complicit, she was incorporated, literally. The afternoon sun felt too bright, too clean for what I carried. 3 blocks back to Evans, where Detective Klein waited to review our findings. My phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. You always were too smart for your own good. Family meeting tonight. Be there, D. I screenshotted the message, added it to my evidence file. Dale thought this was about intelligence, about being too smart. He'd missed the point entirely. It wasn't about being smart. It was about being done. Detective Maris Klein spread the documents across Evan's dining table like a dealer laying out cards. Each paper told part of the story loan applications, incorporation documents, bank correspondence. She photographed everything with methodical precision. Walk me through the timeline again, she said, adjusting her tablet to record. I started from the beginning. 18 months ago, Piedmont Modular Incorporated. 17 months ago, first fraudulent loan attempt. The pattern emerged like a photograph developing in chemicals slow, then sudden, then undeniable. This text, Klein tapped my phone screenshot, sent after you'd filed the report, could be witness intimidation. Could be stupidity, Evan added. He'd been cross-referencing employment records on his laptop. Lauren, look at this. The screen showed a news archive from 14 months ago. Piedmont Modular wins Johnson Creek Bridge subcontract. A small item, barely 3 paragraphs, but the details mattered. $400,000 contract for steel reinforcement materials. When did he leave his last job? Klein asked. 15 months ago, I said, voluntarily, according to him. I'll pull the employment records, she made a note. Termination details are relevant if there was cause. Evan had already moved on, fingers flying over keys. Found something else, building permit violations at 3 sites where Piedmont was subcontractor, all related to substandard materials. Print everything, Klein ordered. The printer whirred to life. I watched pages emerge: permits, violations, inspection reports. Dale's name appeared on each one, signed with the same careless scrawl I'd seen on the loan applications. There's a pattern beyond the fraud, I said. He's buying cheap materials, billing for premium, pocketing the difference, and needing loans to cover shortfalls when inspectors catch him. Evan finished. Klein's phone buzzed. She stepped onto the balcony to answer, leaving us with the growing pile of evidence. Through the glass door, I could see her nodding, occasionally gesturing with her free hand. Former coworker, she announced, returning. Dale Renner wasn't voluntary termination. They gave him the option resign or face charges. Missing inventory, approximately $30,000 in steel beam shipments. Company ate the loss to avoid scandal. Mom knew, I said. It wasn't a question. Financial records show Lydia Renner made several large cash deposits around that time, just under the reporting threshold. Klein pulled up bank screenshots on her tablet. 10 deposits, $9,500 each, over 3 weeks. Structured deposits, classic money laundering technique. Mom hadn't just enabled, she'd actively participated. I have a contact at the State Construction Board, Evan offered. We could. Already on it. Klein's phone buzzed again. That's them now. They're pulling every contract Piedmont touched. If there's a pattern of substitution. Materials fraud is federal if it crosses state lines, I said. The Johnson Creek Bridge connects to the interstate system. Klein smiled sharp, appreciative. Exactly, which brings FBI jurisdiction into play. The scope kept expanding. What started as domestic violence and identity theft now encompassed interstate fraud, money laundering, potentially federal crimes. Each thread we pulled revealed 3 more. I need to ask, Klein said. Why now? What made you finally report this? I thought about all the times before, the excuses I'd made, the family loyalty I'd clung to like a life raft in a storm. He made me complicit, using my professional title, my reputation. Every time he drops my name at a job site, he's trading on credentials I earned. And your mother chose her side a long time ago. Klein gathered the papers into organized stacks. I'm filing for expedited warrants, search of the residence, Piedmont's supposed office, financial records. But Lauren, she met my eyes. This is going to get ugly. They'll fight back. They already have. I gestured to my slinged arm. That was impulse. This will be calculated. She sealed evidence bags, labeled each one. Stay with your brother. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't respond to any contact from them. What about my job I can't miss? I'll call your employer. Explain you're assisting with a federal investigation. She paused. You said you work with emergency warning systems. VoxSafe Systems. We handle the county's weather alerts, emergency broadcasts, including the ones for construction sites, OSHA compliance. I nodded, not seeing the connection. Just thinking ahead, she packed her evidence kit. These investigations take time, months, sometimes, but construction sites, they're required to participate in safety drills, aren't they? Monthly tornado drills during season. It's state law for any site over 50 workers. Interesting. She headed for the door. I'll be in touch within 24 hours. Meanwhile, start thinking about any other documentation you can provide. Emails, recorded conversations, anything. After she left, Evan and I sat in the silence of revealed truth. The apartment felt smaller somehow, crowded with the weight of what we'd uncovered. She's building something bigger, Evan said finally. It's not just about Dale anymore. It never was. I touched the folder of evidence we'd kept copies of. It's about patterns, Mom establishing them, enabling them, profiting from them. 20 years of it. 20 years too long. My phone lit up another unknown number. I let it ring through to voicemail, then played the message on speaker. Mom's voice, carefully controlled. Lauren, honey, there's been a misunderstanding. Dale says you took some paperwork that wasn't yours. We need to resolve this as a family. Please call me. Evan laughed, bitter, exhausted. Still playing the same cards? I deleted the message, blocked the number. Family meetings were over. What came next would happen in courtrooms, with warrants, under oath. The investigation was building momentum like a storm system pressure dropping, conditions aligning, and somewhere in the back of my mind, an idea began to form. About tornado drills, about voices over loudspeakers, about the perfect intersection of legal timing and poetic justice. But first, the evidence. Always the evidence. Strategic people document everything, and I was nothing if not strategic. The VoxSafe Systems conference room smelled like burnt coffee and dry erase markers. I'd been back at work for 2 weeks, shoulder mostly healed, throwing myself into compliance protocols with newfound purpose. My supervisor, Janet, watched me spread construction site contracts across the table. You're proposing we accelerate the tornado drill schedule. She adjusted her reading glasses, skeptical. The Weather Service upgraded risk projections for early May. I pulled up the meteorological data. Conditions are aligning for potential severe weather. We should adjust our drill calendar accordingly. This wouldn't have anything to do with... She gestured vaguely at my still healing arm. This is about public safety. True, if incomplete. The Johnson Creek Bridge complex specifically, they've had recent violations, new subcontractors, higher risk profile. Janet studied the paperwork. Piedmont Modular's name appeared halfway down the contractor list. State regulations require 72 hours notice for mandatory drills. I'm aware. I'm proposing we schedule for May 15th, full county-wide drill, with emphasis on construction and industrial sites. That's 3 weeks out. 3 weeks. Klein had said the warrants would be ready by then. The investigation had expanded FBI involved now, given the interstate fraud implications. They needed Dale on site, needed him unable to destroy evidence or flee. I'll personally oversee the voice recordings, I offered. Ensure clarity across all PA systems. Janet's expression softened slightly. She'd been at VoxSafe for 20 years, had seen her share of office politics and personal vendettas, but she was also a professional. Fine, but everything by the book, Lauren, every protocol followed to the letter. Of course. I spent the afternoon updating emergency contact databases, verifying site manager information. Piedmont operated out of a warehouse unit at the industrial complex Unit 47B. According to business filings, their office likely consisted of a desk and filing cabinet, but it was enough to establish presence. My desk phone rang. Detective Klein, calling from an unlisted number. Can you talk? I glanced around the empty compliance department. Yes. Judge signed the warrants. Execution date is flexible. Pending coordination. A pause. Your tornado drill proposal, May 15th. Pending final approval. That would work well with our timeline. Dale's been staying close to the warehouse during business hours, trying to move inventory. We think the safety protocols require all personnel to remain at designated shelter points until the all clear. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Site managers conduct head counts. No one leaves. Convenient, I could hear her smile. Your mother filed a civil suit. By the way, claims you stole proprietary business documents. She's welcome to explain that in court. That's the plan. Judge consolidated it with our criminal case. One-stop shopping for justice. Papers rustled in the background. How's the recording process work? I'll use our standard emergency voice protocol. Clear, authoritative, no regional accent. It's designed to cut through panic, ensure compliance. And it'll be your voice. Standard procedure. I'm the senior compliance officer. My voice is already in the system from previous drills. Another pause. He won't recognize it over industrial speakers. Different acoustics, different context. That's what I'm counting on. After we hung up, I returned to the drill planning. Every detail mattered: evacuation routes, shelter assignments, communication protocols. I built the plan like a legal brief, each element supporting the next. Evan texted around 4. Former Piedmont employee wants to talk. Tonight, 7 p.m., Murphy's Bar. Murphy's was a dive near the industrial district, the kind of place construction crews gathered after shifts. I arrived early, chose a corner booth with clear sight lines. The former employee turned out to be Ray Hutchinson, 60, weathered, missing 2 fingers on his left hand. Heard you're building a case against Dale, he said without preamble. News travels. In construction like wildfire, he signaled the bartender for 2 beers. I worked the Johnson Creek job, quit when I saw what he was doing with the steel specifications. Which was, grade B beans, charging for grade A, the difference goes in his pocket. Ray pulled out a small notebook, pages stained with coffee and grease. Kept track of every shipment, dates, quantities, substitutions. I photographed each page while he talked. The scale was staggering: hundreds of thousands in materials fraud over 6 months. Why didn't you report it? To whose site manager was getting kickbacks? Safety inspector owed Dale money. He shrugged. Besides, I needed the job. Got grandkids. What changed? Heard about your situation. My daughter. He stopped. Started again. My daughter married a guy like Dale. Took us years to get her free. Someone's got to stop these bastards. I handed him Klein's card. She'll want to hear from you directly. Already called her. Testifying next week. He raised his beer. To justice. To documentation, I countered. He laughed, rough but genuine. That too. Walking back to Evans, I thought about systems, how Dale had corrupted them: construction, family, trust. But systems could be reclaimed, turned back on those who abused them. A tornado drill was just another system. Protocols to follow, voices to obey. My phone buzzed. The approval email from Janet, CC'd to the State Safety Board. May 15th, 10 a.m., county-wide mandatory tornado drill. 3 weeks to ensure every detail was perfect. 3 weeks for Dale to grow comfortable, confident his threats had worked. 3 weeks for warrants and testimony and evidence to align like storm fronts. I pulled up the voice recording software on my phone, practiced the opening commands. Attention all personnel. This is a mandatory tornado drill. Move immediately to designated shelter areas. My voice sounded different through the phone speaker filtered, authoritative. Through industrial PA systems, it would be unrecognizable. Just another safety protocol. Just another system functioning as designed. Dale thought he understood power: physical intimidation, financial manipulation, family leverage. But real power was simpler: the right voice, the right moment, the right system. All perfectly legal, all perfectly documented, all perfectly inevitable. The courtroom smelled like old wood and anxiety. I sat in the gallery's third row, watching Dale's lawyer, a strip mall attorney named Burkhart, shuffle papers with theatrical importance. Mom sat behind the defense table, wearing her church dress, the navy one with small flowers, playing the supportive wife. Your Honor, Burkhart began, this is a simple case of family miscommunication escalating into vindictive prosecution. Ms. Hale has fabricated. Objection, the prosecutor, Ade Sarah Chen, stood smoothly. Defense is making arguments before opening statements. Sustained. Mr. Burkhart, save it for your opening. The preliminary hearing was supposed to be routine: establish probable cause, set bail, schedule trial dates, but Burkhart had filed a cross-complaint, trying to muddy the waters with accusations of theft and defamation. The defense moves to dismiss all charges. Burkhart continued. The alleged victim clearly... I'll hear from the prosecution first. Judge Martinez, 60-something with careful eyes, had already reviewed the evidence packets. Her expression suggested she wasn't impressed with Burkhart's grandstanding. Chen presented methodically the assault charges, the hospital records, the fraudulent loan applications she'd brought enlarged copies, Dale's signature blown up for clarity, then the bank records, showing structured deposits just under reporting limits. The people request consolidation of all related charges. Your Honor, the financial crimes are inextricably linked to the domestic violence incident. Defense objects, Burkhart stood. These are separate matters. Mr. Burkhart? Judge Martinez's voice cut sharp. I've reviewed the timeline. The assault occurred during an attempt to force Ms. Hale to sign fraudulent documents. They're clearly related. From my seat, I could see Dale's neck redden. He leaned toward Burkhart, whispering harshly. Mom stared straight ahead, hands folded like prayer. Furthermore, Chen continued, we have a new witness, Ray Hutchinson, former employee, will testify regarding materials fraud at construction sites where the defendant operated. Objection relevance. Goes to pattern of fraudulent behavior, Your Honor. Also explains the defendant's desperate need for loan cosigners. I'll allow it. The door opened. Detective Klein entered, followed by a man I didn't recognize, federal badge visible on his belt. FBI. They took seats in the back row. Your Honor, Chen said, I should note that federal authorities are observing. as some charges may fall under their jurisdiction. Burkhart's composure cracked slightly. Dale turned, saw the federal agent, went pale beneath his construction tan. "The defense calls Marcus Lowell," Burkhart announced, trying to regain control. Marcus took the stand, looking uncomfortable but determined. Burkhart tried to paint him as biased, suggested the bank had made errors. "Mr. Lowell, isn't it true banks make mistakes in documentation?" "Yes, but—" "And isn't it possible these signature discrepancies you mentioned are simply variations in my client's wife's normal handwriting?" "No," Marcus straightened. "I brought the original signature cards." He produced a folder. "Ms. Hale's authentic signature versus the forgeries. I also brought our security footage from the day the loan application was supposedly signed. Ms. Hale was working, her employer verified she never left the office." Burkhart retreated. Chen smiled slightly. "The people called Dr. Patricia Morse." A handwriting expert took the stand, walked through the signature analysis with scientific precision. Pressure points, angle variations, statistical probability of forgery, 97.3%. Defense calls Lydia Renner. Mom walked to the stand like she was approaching a casket. Her voice, taking the oath, sounded hollow. "Mrs. Renner," Burkhart began gently, "tell us about your daughter's relationship with the family." "Lauren was always difficult. Mom didn't look at me. Secretive about money, judgmental about Dale's business." "Did she have access to family financial documents?" "Yes, she helped with taxes last year." "So she would have had all the information necessary to—" "Objection," Chen stood. "Counsel is testifying." "Sustained." Burkhart pivoted. "Did your daughter ever threaten to destroy your husband's business?" Mom hesitated. In that pause, I saw her make the choice. Again. She said she'd make him pay. Chen's cross-examination was surgical. "Mrs. Renner, you're listed as registered agent for Piedmont Modular, correct?" "Yes." "You handle the banking." "Sometimes?" "These deposits," Chen showed the bank records. 10 deposits of $9,500 each. Did you make these?" Dale asked me to." "Where did the money come from?" "His business earnings." "Cash earnings." "Nearly $100,000 in cash." Mom's hands twisted. "I don't ask about his business." "But you deposit the money. You're the registered agent. You co-signed incorporation documents." Chen's voice stayed level, almost sympathetic. "Mrs. Renner, were you aware these deposits were structured to avoid federal reporting requirements?" "Objection." Burkhart jumped up. "The witness isn't charged with—" "She is now." Chen produced another document. "The people amend the complaint to include Lydia Renner as co-defendant. Conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, identity theft." The courtroom erupted. Mom gasped. Dale shot to his feet before the bailiff warned him down. Burkhart called for a recess. Judge Martinez gavelled order. "I've seen enough. Probable cause is clearly established. The defendant Dale Renner is remanded to custody pending trial. Bail set at $500,000. "Your Honor," Burkhart sputtered, "my client has ties to the community. Your client is a flight risk with pending federal charges. As for Mrs. Renner—" The judge studied Mom, who seemed to have shrunk into her flower dress. "Released on recognizance. Pending arraignment next week. Surrender your passport." As they led Dale away in handcuffs, he turned toward me. The look promised retribution. But behind the rage, I saw something else surprise. He'd never imagined the quiet one would document everything, would build a case like a storm system patient. Thorough. Devastating. Mom stood alone at the defense table, Burkhart already packing up. She finally looked at me across the gallery. 20 years of choices crystallized in that moment. Every time she'd looked away, every signature she'd enabled, every child she'd failed to protect. I gathered my things, left without speaking. Outside, Chen caught up. "That was brave," she said. "Testifying against family is never easy." "I haven't testified yet." "You will. And when you do—" She handed me a business card. "We'll be ready, all of us." The federal agent approached, introduced himself as Special Agent Rivera. Ms. Hale, we'll need to discuss the interstate commerce aspects. The tornado drill you've scheduled, we'd like to coordinate. I nodded. Everything was aligning. The legal storm and the manufactured one, perfectly synchronized. Dale thought he understood power, but he'd only ever wielded the blunt instrument kind. Next week would teach him about the other type, the kind that speaks through systems, follows protocols, arrives with warrants and handcuffs, and voices you never see coming until they're directing your every move. The morning of May 15th arrived gray and humid. Perfect tornado weather. I stood in the VoxSafe control room at 9:45 a.m., monitoring weather data and checking system connections. 23 construction sites would participate in the drill, including the Johnson Creek complex where Piedmont Modular operated. All systems green, Janet confirmed from her station. Your pre-recorded messages uploaded correctly. Through the wall of monitors, I could see various sites via security feeds. Unit 47B showed Dale's truck parked outside the warehouse. He'd made bail 2 days ago, family property as collateral. Mom's signature on the papers. T-minus 15 minutes, I announced. Detective Klein entered the control room, followed by Agent Rivera and 4 other officers. They wore construction gear over their tactical vests, just another work crew, until the moment they weren't. Search warrants, I asked. Judge signed them this morning. Klein checked her radio. Teams are positioned at all exits. The moment your drill starts, we move. I pulled on my headset, ran through the final checklist. The beauty of the system was its legal requirement once a tornado drill began. OSHA mandates required full compliance. No one could leave designated shelter areas until the all clear. Site managers faced massive fines for non-compliance. 10 minutes, Janet called. On monitor 6. I watched Dale emerge from the warehouse carrying a box. Files. Probably. He'd been moving documents all week, according to surveillance, always during business hours, when he thought he was safe. 5 minutes. Lauren, you're live in 4. I adjusted the microphone, centered myself. 3 years of recording emergency broadcasts had taught me the exact tone needed, calm authority that brooked no argument. The voice people obeyed without thinking. 2 minutes. More workers arrived at the Johnson Creek site. The morning shift, settling into routine. On monitor 12, a cement truck pulled up to the gate. Normal operations, about to be suspended by a voice they'd never connect to the woman Dale had shoved out of her home. 1 minute, testing audio levels. Test confirmed, all sites receiving. Agent Rivera positioned his team on the tactical display. 8 agents, 4 local officers, all converging on Unit 47B. But first, the drill. First, my voice. 30 seconds. I thought of Ray Hutchinson's missing fingers, of Mom choosing Dale over truth, of Marcus, my brother, starting over in another state, of every signature forged, every trust betrayed, every system corrupted. 10 seconds. Dale stood outside the warehouse now, talking to a subcontractor, gesturing at blueprints. No idea what was coming. 5, 4, 3, 2. You're live. I keyed the microphone. Attention all personnel. This is a tornado drill. This is a tornado drill. My voice echoed across 23 sites simultaneously, carried by industrial speakers designed to cut through machinery noise. All workers must immediately proceed to designated tornado shelter areas. This is a mandatory drill. Repeat mandatory tornado drill in effect. On the monitors, ant-like figures began moving. Workers dropping tools. Supervisors grabbing clipboards for head counts. The system functioning as designed. Site managers, initiate lockdown protocols. All personnel must remain in shelter areas until the all clear. No exceptions. Dale's head snapped up on monitor 6, scanning for the source of the voice. Just another safety protocol. Just another feminine authority telling him what to do. Countdown clock is active, I continued. You have 90 seconds to reach shelter positions. Movement after the countdown will result in site violations and federal fines. The FBI team moved in perfect synchronization with my words. As workers filed into shelters, agents approached Unit 47B from blind angles. 60 seconds remaining. All exit doors must be secured. This is not optional. Dale argued with a supervisor, pointing at his truck. The supervisor shook his head, pointed toward the concrete shelter. OSHA regulations were clear during tornado drills. Everyone sheltered, even bosses, even owners. 30 seconds. Supervisors, complete your head counts. Agent Rivera's team reached the warehouse door. Klein positioned at the rear exit, all perfectly legal, executing warrants during a safety drill when the subject couldn't flee without causing a federal incident. 10 seconds. All personnel should now be in position. Dale stood at the shelter entrance, still protesting. The supervisor physically guided him inside. The door shut, locked, per protocol. Tornado drill is now in effect. Remain in shelter positions. Site managers, report compliance status. One by one, sites checked in. Johnson Creek, all accounted for. Riverside, secure. North Industrial, compliance confirmed. On the tactical display, FBI agents entered Unit 47B. No resistance, everyone was locked in tornado shelters for the next 20 minutes minimum. Maintain positions, I broadcast. This drill includes inspection protocols. Compliance officers are on site. Through Monitor 6, I watched agents emerge with boxes of documents, computer hard drives, filing cabinets worth of evidence, loaded into unmarked vans while Dale sat in a concrete shelter, listening to my voice explaining safety procedures. Remember, movement during tornado drills risks lives and violates federal safety standards. Your cooperation is mandatory and appreciated. Klein's voice crackled through my earpiece. Holy shit, Lauren, you should see this warehouse. It's like Christmas for prosecutors. Falsified invoices going back 2 years. I kept my broadcast voice steady. 10 minutes remaining in this drill. Continue to shelter in place. More boxes, more evidence, a forklift loading pallets of substandard steel beams, evidence of the substitution scheme, all while Dale sat trapped by the voice he'd dismissed, the woman he'd tried to break. Site managers, prepare for post-drill equipment inspection. Compliance teams will verify all materials meet safety specifications. Agent Rivera appeared on Monitor 6, gave a thumbs up to the camera. Search complete, evidence secured, all while I maintained the calm, professional drone of safety protocols. 5 minutes remaining. Prepare for orderly return to workstations when the all-clear sounds. In the control room, Janet watched with wide eyes. Lauren, did you just execute a textbook tornado drill? Yes, I kept my voice neutral. Everything by the book, right? She nodded slowly, understanding dawning. 2 minutes remaining. Site managers, ready your compliance documentation. On Monitor 6, the FBI van pulled away, loaded with evidence. Klein's team maintained position. The arrest would come after the all-clear, maintaining the drill's integrity. 1 minute. Prepare for all-clear signal. I thought of Dale in that shelter, forced to listen to my voice for 20 minutes. The same voice he'd dismissed. The same woman he'd tried to intimidate into silence. Now that voice commanded federal authority, directed his movements, controlled his world. All clear in 10, 9, 8. The countdown felt like vindication. 3, 2, 1, all clear. Tornado drill complete. Resume normal operations under supervision of on-site compliance officers. I removed my headset as shelter doors opened across the complex. On Monitor 6, Dale emerged, blinking in the sunlight. Klein and her team waited. I watched him realize, saw the moment he understood. The warehouse doors standing open, the FBI van gone, the officers approaching with handcuffs. His voice carried over the audio feed as they read his rights. This was her, that fucking... The feed cut as they led him away. In the control room, silence. Then Janet spoke. That was the most thoroughly compliant tornado drill I've ever witnessed. Thank you, I said. I believe in following protocols. Through it all, my voice had never wavered. calm, professional, authoritative. Exactly as the system required. The arrest scene played out exactly as scripted. Through the control room monitors, I watched Klein's team escort Dale from the shelter area. His construction boots scraped concrete as reality set in the warehouse empty, evidence gone, his voice-controlled world collapsing. Dale Renner, Klein's voice carried clear through the site's audio system. You're under arrest for interstate fraud, money laundering, identity theft, aggravated assault, and violation of federal construction standards. He twisted in the handcuffs, scanning the industrial complex. Where is she? I know she's watching. The other workers stood frozen, unsure whether this was part of the drill. Site managers clutched their compliance folders, torn between protocol and spectacle. Agent Rivera stepped forward. Mr. Renner, your business records indicate systematic substitution of construction materials across state lines. That's federal jurisdiction. I want my lawyer. You'll have that opportunity, Rivera nodded to his team. Meanwhile, we have a warrant for Lydia Renner as well. On Monitor 12, I saw another team at Mom's house. She emerged in the same flower dress from court, hands already forward for the cuffs. No surprise on her face, just resignation. Janet touched my shoulder. You can take a break if you need. I'm fine. I keyed the microphone for one final announcement. Attention all Johnson Creek personnel. The compliance inspection is complete. Federal investigators will remain on site. Full cooperation is mandatory. Normal operations may resume under supervision. My voice calm, authoritative, filled the space where Dale had once strutted like he owned it. The same voice he'd dismissed as worthless now directed the complete dismantling of his world. I removed my headset, signed the broadcast log. Every detail documented, every protocol followed. Klein called an hour later. Thought you'd want to know the warehouse was a gold mine. Invoices, altered specifications, even a second set of books. Your boy kept records of his own crimes. Ego, I said. He needed to track how clever he was being. Well, he tracked himself right into federal prison. Prosecutor says with the interstate fraud and money laundering, he's looking at 15 to 20. Your mother, a pause. She's cooperating, full confession, turning state's evidence. Of course she is. No surprise there. Mom always chose the path of least resistance. Lauren, what you did today, the coordination, the timing, that was brilliant. It was protocol. I kept my voice level. Just following safety regulations. She laughed. Right, protocol. Listen, the prosecutor wants to meet Monday. Prep you for testimony. I'll be there. After we hung up, I stood in the empty control room, looking at the blank monitors. Somewhere across town, Dale sat in federal holding, probably still ranting about the conspiracy against him. Mom in another cell, calculating which story would buy her the best deal. Evan texted, saw the news, FBI raid at construction site. Tornado drill assist, you're a genius. Just use the system, I replied. The system he thought he owned, poetic. It was, in a way. Dale had corrupted every system he touched: family, business, trust. But systems could be reclaimed, voices could carry authority, protocols could deliver justice. I gathered my things, locked the control room. Outside, the afternoon sun broke through the morning's gray. Somewhere, Ray Hutchinson was probably raising a beer to justice. Marcus, wherever he'd built his new life, might see the news and feel something lift from his shoulders. All the people Dale had bullied, cheated, intimidated, they'd learned that someone had finally said no and made it stick. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, then recognized the Federal Detention Center prefix. You think you won? Dale's voice, rage barely contained. You destroyed our family. No, I said, calm as any emergency broadcast. You did that. I just documented it. Your mother made her choices, just like you made yours. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I ended the call, blocked the number. There was nothing left to say. The parking lot stretched empty before me. 3 weeks ago, I'd walked away from that house with a dislocated shoulder and a backpack. Now Dale's empire lay in federal evidence boxes while my voice echoed through empty warehouses. He'd been wrong about silence. It wasn't weakness, it was preparation. The quiet before the siren, the pause before the storm. I drove toward Evan's apartment, windows down, spring air carrying the promise of actual storms later. The weather service had predicted possible tornadoes, the real kind, but I'd already created mine, built it document by document, protocol by protocol, and when it touched down, it spoke in my voice, calm, authoritative, impossible to ignore. Dale thought power came from intimidation. Mom thought it came from enabling dangerous men. They'd both learned otherwise. Real power was simply the right voice at the right moment, backed by evidence and wrapped in legal authority. I'd found mine, and today, everyone had to listen. "Drill complete," I said to the empty car, practicing the words I'd record next month and the month after. "All clear. Resume normal operations." Normal, a concept worth protecting, one broadcast at a time. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. Share our thoughts about Lauren's journey. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. And hey, if you really want to help more people discover stories like this one, hit that hype button. It makes a huge difference in getting these tales heard by others who need them. Until next time.